Now that I have my pivot table created, I can sort it if I want by clicking the little arrow in the row labels cell here. This gives me a menu. I can sort A to Z, Z to A. Got more sort options here. I can also add a filter. Let's say I just want to look at a couple vendors or one particular vendor. I can use the check boxes here. I can uncheck select all. And let's say I just want to look at staples. Here's just the total for staples. Let's say I want to look at staples and MCM. There's the total just for those two. To get back to seeing everything, I can just check select all again. I can also add a custom filter here, custom value filter here. If I want to clear the filter entirely, I can choose clear filter from vendor here. Get back to seeing everything. I'm going to switch up this pivot table a little more. I'm going to remove the vendor field. And now let's look at it by name. How much did each person spend? And again, if we go back to our purchases sheet here, right now we're looking at information coming from the name column and how much each person spent in the amount column. If we want to add a further dimension to the pivot table, look a little deeper into this information, we can add a secondary criteria. So I'm going to take category. If we want to see how much each person spent in each category, I'm going to drag it down into the row labels section. And you'll see that now it gives us the total for what each person spent. We still have that, but now we have these subtotals within each person's section for what they spent for each category. If I want to switch these around, if I want to have category be the main criteria and then within each category what each person spent, I can just drag the name label down to be beneath the category. And you'll see it adjusts here. I now have the category total and subtotals for what each person spent on that category. I can also toggle my view open and closed for each of these sections. There's a little plus or minus box next to each category name, and I can just click that to open and close that section. And if I want to switch it back, all I need to do is take the category field and drag it back down under the name, and we're back where we were before. The totals Excel is giving us here are sums. It's added up the total amounts. But let's say that we want to see these numbers as percentages of the total amount spent. I'm going to go over to my values section here. I'm going to click this arrow in the sum of amount field. I'm going to move this up so you can see it. I'm going to choose value field settings. And this gives me my field settings menu. In this section here, you can choose what kind of function you want Excel to use when it's calculating the pivot table. Sum is going to add everything up. Count just gives you the number of transactions. Average gives you the average amount. We're going to leave this as sum because we do still want it to be adding up all the totals. But we're going to go over to the Show Values As tab here. And in this drop-down menu here, we want it to show it as a percentage of the grand total. And I'll click OK, and let's see what happens. We now see instead of the amounts, we have percentages. So we're seeing what percentage each person's expenditures were of the grand total, and then within each person, the percentage they spent on each category.